The Circulatory Story by Mary K. Corcoran, illustrated by Jeff Chakage. It's time to find out how your heart, blood, and blood vessels work together as you take the best ride of your life. It's a trip through the body's circulatory system. Your adventure begins with a tiny drop of blood. Saddle up that cell. See the red thing that looks like an inner tube without the hole? It's an erythrocyte, and it's one of the three cellular components or formed elements of blood. We'll meet the other components later. An erythrocyte is also known as a red blood cell, and it's your ride. These blood cell is just one of millions found in a drop of blood. These cells carry oxygen. No, they don't carry it in a suitcase or a backpack. Instead, the oxygen attaches to a chemical called hemoglobin that's found in red blood cells. With hemoglobin's help, blood can transport oxygen to all parts of the body, including cells and tissues, which need a constant supply of oxygen, O2, in order to work. Nice job, Red. Go with the flow. Busy red blood cells are always on the move, but how do they flow from one part of the body to another? The blood they travel in is full of a substance called plasma. Plasma contains some dissolved proteins, but it's mostly water, about 90%. Which lets blood flow pretty well. Without plasma, these cells could cause a traffic jam. Your heart, open 24/7. Traveling on your red blood cell, the first place you'll visit is the heart. Your hard-working heart is about the size of your fist. It's located in the chest, a little toward your left side. It's enclosed in a special protective sac called the pericardium. The heart is strong and muscular and works day and night. In fact, it started beating 8 months before you were born. By the time you're 70 years old, it will have beaten about 2.5 billion times. Stay on your own side. You'll notice that the heart has two sides, the right side and the left side. The thick wall, called the septum, separates the two sides. Each side has its own job to do. The left side receives the blood from the lungs and pumps it to the whole body, while the right side receives the blood from the body and pumps it to the lungs. You might think of the heart as a divided highway. A divider separates the lanes, and the cars must stay in their own lane. If not, there's trouble. Rooms with a view. The heart not only has two sides, it also has an upstairs and a downstairs. Each side has an upstairs room and a downstairs room, and each side's upstairs and downstairs are connected. The upstairs rooms are called the atrium in the singular, and the downstairs rooms are called the ventricles. So in total, your heart has 4 rooms called chambers. Unlike the rooms in your home, these rooms have no furniture. They are empty, leaving plenty of room for blood to flow through on a consistent basis. Beat it! It's like Grand Central Station in here in the heart, with the blood flowing in and flowing out with each beat. Each time the heart beats, it squeezes, then relaxes. This action sends the blood through the heart and into the blood vessels that go into different parts of the body. This left atrium is a nice place to visit, but don't get too comfortable here. You're moving down to the left ventricle. Hold on to your cell. You're going to the left ventricle the hard way, through the hole in the floor. Shut the door. If you look up, you will see that you just went through the mitral valve. That thump was the sound of the valve closing. Heart valves are one-way doors that keep blood flowing in the correct direction. When the left atrium contracts or squeezes, the mitral valve opens. This lets blood flow through to the left ventricle. Then the valve closes and the ventricle contracts, pushing the blood out to the rest of the body. There are thin, strong cords that connect the valve to the ventricle wall and help keep the valve shut. Like most pumps, the heart can function with slightly leaky valves. With more serious valve problems, the valve doesn't close or stay closed properly. This lets blood flow back from the ventricle into the atrium. This makes the heart have to work harder, which could damage it. But when everything works well, blood goes through the valve and keeps going where it's supposed to go. Pumped up. The left ventricle is a mega muscular chamber. Its walls are thick and strong. They have to be, because they pump blood out of the heart and send it to the rest of the body. And that's where you're headed too, around the world. Blood doesn't just slosh around in your body after it leaves the heart. First it goes through another valve, the aortic valves. Then it travels through the blood vessels, which are like the tunnels of a super subway system. The main goal of the blood vessels is to nourish the body cells by bringing them things that they need, like oxygen. Blood travels through the entire body in different types of blood vessels. The main kinds of blood vessels are arteries, capillaries, and veins. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Veins carry blood to the heart. Capillaries connect arteries and veins. If all the blood vessels in the human body were lined up end to end, you'd have to travel about 60,000 miles to get from one end to the other. That's equivalent of going around the world twice. The arching aorta. Arteries are big. All arteries have thick, elastic walls. These walls have 3 layers, each with lots of give so they can expand as blood passes through them. The artery you're traveling in as you leave the left ventricle is called the aorta. It's the biggest artery in the whole body. It's an important one too, because all the blood travels through it before heading off to other places in the body. As you travel through the aorta, you'll notice that it forms an arch. Like subway tunnels, 3 blood vessels branch off the top of the arch. These 3 blood vessels are arteries that carry blood to the head, neck, and arms. The aorta continues on, however, carrying blood downward. The blood traveling through the aorta will eventually branch off to the rest of the body, including the lungs, kidney, stomach, intestines, and legs. Don't pressure me. Due to the pumping of the heart, blood moves through the aorta under a lot of pressure. The movement of pressure of the walls of the arteries is called blood pressure. This pressure moves blood to the smaller blood vessels. There's one now. It's a capillary. It's going to be a tight squeeze. Tiny but terrific. Capillaries are so narrow that red blood cells pass through them one at a time. Some capillaries have more space than others, depending on where they are in the body. For example, capillaries in parts of the intestine and in the brain are narrower or smaller in diameter than those in the skin. Capillary walls are only one thin cell layer thick, but that's a good thing because, whoa, what was that? Excuse you. P.U. Your red blood cell just passed gas. Well, actually, it released the oxygen it was carrying, and this type of gas doesn't really smell. The oxygen passed through the capillary wall, good thing these walls are so thin, and was picked up by the body cell. Then the body cell released carbon dioxide, CO2, a waste product, which passed through the capillary wall and was picked up by red blood cells. Don't leave yet. There's more to come. Not only has the oxygen arrived at this lucky little body cell, but nutrients have too. When oxygen from the red blood cells and glucose, a kind of sugar absorbed by the bloodstream from the digestive tract, meet in a body cell, they react to produce energy, carbon dioxide, and water. Water is always present in the body, and it's constantly being reused. This super reaction is called cellular respiration. It's important because it gives you energy to stand, energy to exercise, and even energy to circulate blood. So the little body cell now has everything it needs. Plus, we picked up its waste, carbon dioxide. Nowhere to go but up. The red blood cells you're on and the others around you have done their job. They've carried oxygen to the body cells. Now it's time to travel into a vein and head back towards the heart. Veins are blood vessels that are thinner than arteries but thicker than capillaries. But thud. What did you just bump into? It was a valve. You'd better watch which way you're going. Like the heart, many veins have a cool way of preventing blood from flowing back the wrong way. One-way venous valves. These valves not only keep the blood from going backward, they also help the blood climb up to the heart as it travels against gravity. Just then, outside the body, human, we have a problem. Here you are in your right leg, ready to return to the heart, but look out. There's an army of leukocytes, aka white blood cells, headed your way. What on earth is going on? The white blood cells are responding to a cut on the leg. Better stand back. These white blood cells are going to engulf the invading bacteria that have made their way into the body through the skin. The rod-shaped bacteria could cause infection in the body. Go, Army! White blood cells are one of the three components of blood. Like red blood cells, they usually travel through the bloodstream. Unlike red blood cells, troops of white blood cells can move through tissue into parts of the body. Don't look for these cells to be dressed in camouflage, though. Not all these soldiers look alike. Some, like macrophages and B cells, look different from each other and do different jobs. Like an army, macrophages increase in number, surround the invaders, and destroy the bad guys. Keep up the good work, Mac. B, lymphocytes or B cells are another kind of white blood cell. They make antibodies, chemicals that help protect you against certain diseases. Antibodies also give you immunity from that disease, meaning they help prevent you from getting it again. That's pus, Gus. If not cared for properly, some cuts may get infected. A yellowish fluid called pus can indicate infection. A cut with pus needs proper medical help. To help prevent infections, wash the cut with soap and water, then cover it with a bandage. Clot a lot. What a battle! As all this action is happening, more troops, platelets, the last of the three components of blood arrive on the scene. These little guys, with the help of special fibers called fibrin, help to form a clot that stops the blood from flowing out of the wound. Soon the clot becomes a scab, which gives the damaged skin time to heal. Don't pick at it. Inferior or superior? You've come a long way from that little cell that passed gas. In fact, you're in a vein called the inferior vena cava, and you're almost back to the heart. You have completed a trip through one part or a circuit of the body's circulatory system, the systematic circuit. This circuit nourishes most of the body with blood. Now, there's nothing inferior about the inferior vena cava. It just means that blood going through it has been in the lower part of the body. If you have been in the upper part of the body, you would have gone through the superior vena cava. The blood in both of these veins is oxygen poor or deoxygenated because a lot of the oxygen from the blood cells was given to the body cells. Systematic circulation. Deja vu? The inferior vena cava brings you into the heart at the right atrium. Then it's down through the tricuspid valve, which works like a mitral valve, but it's located between the right atrium and the right ventricle. It feels like we've done something like this before. How shocking. Before you leave for the right ventricle, there's something in the right atrium that you might like to check out. It is the sinoatrial node. This most amazing little group of cells is known as the heart's natural pacemaker. It sends electrical signals to the atria and ventricles, telling them to beat at a certain pace or rate. So when a person is exercising, the heart chambers will contract more quickly, sending more blood and therefore more oxygen to the body cells than when a person is at rest and doesn't need as much oxygen. Did you get a charge out of that? Time to fill her up. The next part of the circulatory system is the pulmonary circuit. It is shorter but no less important. Pulmonary refers to lungs, and that's where you're headed. After saying goodbye to the right ventricle, say hello to the pulmonary valve and the pulmonary artery. This is the artery that will bring you into the lungs. Take a deep breath. You're here for oxygen. A hearty review. Have you ever traded part of your lunch for part of your friend's lunch? Well, it's the same in your lungs. Carbon dioxide is breathed out when you exhale, and oxygen is taken into the body from the air when you inhale. Sounds like a good trade. Now, do you remember when the red blood cells released oxygen to the body cells? They got that oxygen here in the lungs. Do you also remember that the body cells passed their carbon dioxide to the red blood cells? Now it's time for the red blood cells to get rid of that waste gas at the lungs. This gas exchange takes place in the lungs alveoli, or air sacs. Capillaries surround the alveoli, as you saw earlier. Capillaries are so thin that the gases are easily exchanged here. Isn't that refreshing? Heartward bound. After this great gas exchange, the blood goes back to the heart. This blood is called oxygenated blood because all of the oxygen it's carrying. Can you guess which side the blood goes into? Yes, it goes to the heart's left side, and the blood will now be pumped out of the left ventricle and on to the body cells. Heart to heart. The last part of the circulatory system is the coronary circuit. It's the shortest circuit in the body, but it's the most important because it supplies the heart itself with blood. As blood leaves the left ventricle through the aorta, blood vessels called coronary arteries branch off the base of the aorta and bring blood to the heart cells. Without the supply, the heart cells couldn't survive. Coronary veins carry blood away from the heart. Fighting plaque. Oh no, look at that sticky gunk on the walls of this coronary artery. That's plaque. No, not the kind that can build up on your teeth. The plaque in arteries is a fatty substance. An unhealthy diet, especially lots of fatty foods, can cause plaque to build up on people's arteries, which can lead to a clog in a coronary artery. Think of the pipes below your kitchen sink. If too much gunk builds up, water can't pass through the pipes, then it's time to get the plunger. Adults with a lot of plaque on their coronary arteries are at risk of having a heart attack. Some of these nasty plaque may prevent blood from reaching the heart cells. Without oxygen, these cells become damaged. When this happens, a doctor has to unclog that artery. Treating your heart well helps prevent heart trouble. 2 heart-smart ideas are to eat right and to exercise. This way the heart can be buff and healthy. This advice is straight from the heart. The circulatory story. You've visited 3 kinds of blood vessels, hungry body cells, and the 4 chambers of the heart. Plus, you've seen breathtaking views of the lungs. If you'd like to go again, you'll have plenty of chances to catch a ride because the heart beats about 100,000 times per day. Blood circulates through the body over and over and over each day of your life. Many things must happen in just the right order to ensure that everything in this incredible body system works properly. So the next time you feel your heart beating, or you think about your veins, or get a scrape, remember your trip through the circulatory story. You must admit, it sure is great to circulate. The end.